Angeles true stories about getting around LA told by people who don't drive. Thank you for coming. My name's Scott Schultz. I'm your host today, and we have some great storytellers here for you today. For those of you who don't know, we've been doing this show all over Los Angeles for about 3 years now, all over the city, stories that take place on the bus, on the train, on the sidewalks, on bicycles. And today, I took some of our funnier stories over the last 3 years, and I brought these storytellers here for you guys today, although not every story that takes place on the bus is funny. There's a lot of funny stories that take place on the bus, and a lot of them take place on that bus that rides by this theater, the number 4. So I have some really great storytellers. I'll be back out at the end for a story. So anyway, thank you for coming, and enjoy the ride.
I have a quick question for you all. Has anyone here had a bicycle stolen? Yes. Anybody? All right. Some of you guys know what this is like. For those of you who don't know what it's like to have a bicycle stolen, I will tell you what it feels like. It feels much worse than having a child murdered. Because when your child's murdered, you get to have a funeral, you get a little tombstone you can visit, you get closure. But when your bicycle's stolen in Los Angeles, there's no closure. You spend the rest of your days wandering the streets of the city thinking that you're going to spot someone else with your gorgeous bike between their legs. You think you're going to find your bike for sale on Craigslist. You don't find your dead baby for sale on Craigslist, but your bike might be. Trust me, I've looked. And every time I have a bike stolen, I lose a part of my soul, part of my love of life. I get more bitter and more angry and more determined that one day I'm going to catch one of these bike-stealing mofos, and I'm going to rain down fury like 1,000 Liam Neesons and enact street justice. Since moving to LA, I've had 3 bikes, 3 seats, 2 lights, a pump, and a front tire stolen. And I keep thinking, one day I'm going to catch one of these guys. But that's never going to happen. What are the odds? Except it did happen. It happened this last summer. I was leaving the Broadway bar in downtown Los Angeles about 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night, and the street's quiet and empty. There's just me, the bouncer in front of the bar, my bike parked at the bike rack out front, and some asshole taking my bike apart. I look there and I'm shocked. This guy's already unscrewed my bike seat, which is on there tightly. He's holding my bike seat in one hand. He's unzipping my saddlebag. He reaches in, pulls out my exercise resistance bands, and throws it on the street like he's tearing my own intestines out of my body. And I see him reach past my library book, and I'm filled with rage. And I get a tiny bit of an erection because I'm also excited because this moment's finally here. I'm going to have my revenge, my justice. And I rush over to him in my best angry dad voice. I say, "What the hell are you doing? Get away from my bike!" And I grab my seat out of his hand. But instead of running away, he just stands there and kind of dully looks at me. And I'm like, "Yeah, you better get away from my bike." He's still standing there. But why isn't he running in terror? I'm terrifying. Instead, he just points at my feet and says, "Hey man, can I get my stuff?" And I look down, and I'm standing between him and this plastic CVS bag that he had put down while he was still on my bike. And I see that he wants me to respect his property after what he did to my property, and I get more angry, and I kick his bag of shit in the street. And I say, "There's your stuff, go get it." And then he looks at me with sad puppy dog eyes and says, "Why'd you do that, man? You didn't have to do that. That's my stuff, why'd you do that?" And now he's gone from stealing my property to stealing the moral high ground from me. It's even worse. And I say, "Well, at least I didn't take your shit. It's right there. Go get it. At least I'm not a thief." And then he goes, "What'd you call me?" I said, "I called you a thief because you're a thief." And he says, "Don't call me that. Don't call me a thief. Don't say that." And I'm like, "I'm only saying because it's true." He's like, "It's not. It's not." I said, "You're a thief." And he says, "That's it. We're going to fight. I'm going to kick your ass now." And then I'm holding my bike seat like a defensive weapon, saying, suddenly I go from angry to confused to scared. I say, I don't want to fight, man, okay? I'm not a fighter, but I'm going to call the cops now, and we'll see if they think you're a thief. And I dial the cops, and he's screaming at me all kinds of horrible curse words. And I get the cops, and I say, yeah, this guy's stealing my stuff. He's right in front of me. You can hear him yelling right now. He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt and black jeans and white sneakers. And then this guy finally starts to back away. Because I'm like, the cops are coming. And he starts to walk up the street. And he's halfway up the block. And I feel like, you won this round, Burkhart. And I get a little cocky. And I say, yeah, you better run, thief. And he says, what'd you say to me? And he turns around. And he's running back at me. I'm like, shit, why did I keep my stupid mouth shut? But thankfully, my guardian angel saves me. Or actually, the bouncer for the Broadway bar is my guardian angel. Because he finally comes over and stands next to me while this guy comes at me. So now the guy sees that it's 2 against 1. And he's screaming the whole time, but he starts to back away. And, he's so angry as he walks up the street. He stops in front of Two Boots Pizza and grabs one of their metal stools from outside and throws it into the street. And I want to say, why'd you do that, man? Come on, man. They're stuck. Why'd you do that? But by now, I've learned to keep my mouth shut. And a few minutes later, the cops get there, and I tell them, he went that way, go get him. And, although my revenge fantasy didn't come true, at least I think I might have saved someone else from getting their bike stolen that night. And that's the best kind of closure after all. Thank you.
Guys have been complaining to me about how hard it is to meet a girl on the bus or on the train. It's either because girls don't consider them serious. Oh, you don't have a car, you're not cool enough. Or if you take a bus, you're just creepy. But please don't think that it's any easier for girls to meet guys on the bus or on the train. Just last year, I was on an Expo Line train when this guy gets in, and he's very cute, and he has curly long hair, and he carries a case that looks like a musical instrument. And you all know how much girls like musicians. So one of the ladies on the train, she couldn't keep her eyes off him, and she was thinking about maybe some kind of pickup line. So she ended up just coming up to him and saying, hey, what's this musical instrument that you have? What do you play? I think it's a very nice conversation starter, right? He says, it's a bassoon. She looks confused. Bassoon? Is it a small bass guitar? What is it? He starts laughing, cracking up, turns away from her, and just can't stop laughing to the extent when it's very rude. And she's like, oh shit, sorry I asked. So he's like, no lady, a bassoon is a wind instrument, right? You play it like this. So no, it's not a small bass guitar. She feels so embarrassed. She's like, yeah, sorry I asked. And she just walks away. And I'm like, really, man? Really? You had to be this arrogant to a girl? She was nice. She was cute. She was trying to talk to you. Why do you have to be like this? So, but at least this guy wasn't dangerous, right? Because just earlier this month, I was on the bus, and this guy comes in, and he has tattoos and shaved head, and he looks attractive, probably to most of the women on the bus. And one of them is especially interested. She stares at him, and she's probably also thinking, how can I talk to him? But suddenly his phone rings. He picks it up, and he goes, I'm going to court, dude. I'll call you later. She suddenly to court. Maybe not a good idea. Turns away, stares out of the window. His phone rings again. He's like, okay, mom, yeah, I'm going to court, okay? No, it's just traffic court, some tickets and stuff, don't worry about it. She starts staring again. Oh, okay, traffic court, not so bad, maybe he's a decent guy after all. I wasn't sitting that far away from him, so I could hear that in his phone something was going on. Somebody was screaming at him on top of their lungs. I assume it was his mom. So he got really angry and he said, Mom, shut up already. I told you I'm paying the alimony, okay? I told you I've been paying the alimony. Stop pestering me about it. The woman is suddenly, alimony? Screaming at your mom? No. Loses interest completely. Turns away. So I mean, at least she was being careful, right? I think you always have to be careful. But probably we should get careful to an extent when we are even not even optimistic about meeting a guy on the bus. Just recently I felt terrible for those two young ladies. They were just talking to each other when this guy comes in, and he looks like a typical actor, very nice looking and all, sits down next to them, and they start talking. And one of them is very cute, and the other one is average looking. And of course, stereotypically, he talks to the one who is pretty. And her friend is like, yeah, sure. So the pretty one tells him, I'm a nurse, and my friend she actually works in casting, so she works with actors. Guess what? His attention immediately switches to the other friend, the one who is less cute. And he's like, oh, hey, by the way, yes, I'm an actor, just up-and-coming actor. I'm not making money with it yet, but right now I work for a moving company, but I really want, I need promotion. So here you go, here's my business card, please call me, let's talk. And now it's the less cute girl that rolls her eyes. She's like, yeah, of course. Big surprise, big surprise. At some point, the guy leaves the bus, and the girl just crumples the card and throws it away. Turns to her cute friend and says, as usual, right? As usual. So anyways, I opened the store this morning, you close it tonight. They were not even a nurse and the casting agent. I guess that's a good way for girls to weed out bad guys, the guys who are only interested either in just looks or just in a way they can use you. But all I want to tell you is let's not get that pessimistic about it, because, if we get too careful, we might miss on something very important. But who knows? One day we might meet somebody decent on the bus. So let's pay attention and be careful, but let's not get way too skeptical, okay? Thank you.
Okay, this story happened when I was about 10 years old. I just moved to the city of Inglewood, and I met this other little kid. His name was Eric. He goes, hey man, I know everybody in the neighborhood, and I'm gonna introduce you to them. He goes, but there's two older kids that live down the street. He goes, my mother doesn't like me to hang out with them. I said, why not? He goes, because they're in a gang. I go, oh yeah? What's the name of their gang? He says, the Inglewood family. I said, yeah? And I said, well, what are the leaders' name? Taco and Spaghetti. I said, wow, what a name. That sounds like a great gang to join. Taco and Spaghetti and the Inglewood families. Little did I know, Taco and Spaghetti were the most ruthless gangsters in Inglewood. I mean, my grandmother used to say, Horace, all the bad people are dead or in jail. Okay, Spaghetti is serving life right now. No parole. And Taco, rest his soul. Let him rest in peace. So anyway, I said, what do we got to do to get in this gang? He goes, oh, we need to go buy some red rags. I said, cool. I said, now, is this going to be like our gang? He says, yes. Now, I'm talking about our gang, the little rascals. Now, I go tell my mom, hey, Mom, I'm going to join a gang. It's called the Inglewood Families. And she goes, oh, yeah, what kind of gang is that? I said, it's going to be like our gang. And she says, oh, good. I said, well, I need you to go buy me a red rag. And she says, okay. So my mother goes and she buys me this red rag. So I fold up the rag, and me and my friend Eric put it in our back pockets. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. We got to show everybody we got red rags and ask them if they want to join our gang. And so we take off down the street. It's not too many people out. Don't see any other kids. So I go, where's everybody? He goes, maybe they're at the theater. Let's catch the bus. So I said, cool. When we catch the bus, we'll see people on the bus, and they might want to join our gang too. So we get on the bus. No kids on the bus. Forget it. Catch a ride. The bus drops us off 2 blocks away from the theater. Now we walk into the theater. I'm thinking I'm cool. Hey, I got a red rag. I'm in a new gang. And We get inside the theater. Now, this is a big theater. It has a balcony up and everything. So we walk inside. I look around. I go, Eric, why are we the only ones in here with red rags? He goes, I'm not sure. I said, Eric, everybody in here has blue rags. What does that mean? He goes, oh, those are Crips. They wear blue rags. I said, well, why are they looking at us like that? He goes, because they don't like us. I said, they looking at us like they're gonna kill us. So I heard one dude say, man, what those dudes doing in here? I said, Eric, I think they're gonna try to get us or something. I said, let's run into the theater so all those other kids won't see us. So we hop inside the theater, and I step back against the wall, and we sit in the last seats. About 3 seconds later, these dudes bust through the door. Where they at? Where they at? I'm gonna get them. I'm gonna kill them. I'm like, oh my goodness, my heart is pounding so bad. I look at Eric, we're hiding behind the seats in the first row while they're walking down, checking every aisle. I said, I can't believe I let you talk me into this junk. So I take the red rag and I throw it out of my pocket and I throw it on the floor. He goes, well, what do you want me to do with mine? I said, you better get rid of it. He goes, but it cost me $3.75. I said, well, if you want to get your butt kicked for $3.75, you stay right here. I'm running. So he takes his rag. We wait till they get all the way to the front of the theater. Now, I threw mine on the floor. He's going to take his and throw it up in the air. As soon as he says that, they go, get him. Man, I ran out of that door so fast. We take out the front door. Eric is right behind me. We're running down the street. I mean, it's at least 30, 40 kids chasing us. Now, we're running down the middle of the street of Manchester Boulevard, running as fast as we can. I'm fast. Eric's a little chubby. He's about behind me. But I'm not slowing down for him. Now we're running as fast as we can, and all of a sudden I see the bus cross Manchester Avenue. I'm like, oh my goodness, we're dead. And all of a sudden, I run a little bit farther, and I see the bus has stopped. He's got his hazard lights on. And the driver is going, run, run! He's doing like this, and he's trying to stop the traffic. I start running faster. And I look behind, Eric is still trying to keep up. Boom, I run straight across the street. I hop on the bus, and Eric is still running. They're still chasing him. And the driver has the door open, and he's revving the engine, and he's ready to go. And so, finally, he's trying to stop the traffic. Eric runs across the street, hops into the bus. The dudes are banging on the bus. The driver takes off. Whoa! He's going. And the driver says, man, why are all of those guys chasing you? I said, I was trying to build a clubhouse. All right, that's my story, you guys. Peace and love.
How's everybody doing? Me too. I'm in the same exact mood. I love public transportation, you guys, because that is where life, real life, and all the great stories happen. And I talk about it on stage a lot in my stand-up and stuff like that. And recently a friend of mine said, Greg, you have to understand something. You're in LA. You can't talk about riding the bus because you have to keep up appearances here and people will think something is wrong with you. But despite that, I can't give up the great stories. Like the other day I was on the bus and this guy got on, he didn't pay his fare, and the female driver said, please, please sir, get off the bus. And he's like, fuck you, bitch, and really aggressive towards her. And he also smelled intense, you guys. So she said, well, sir, if you're gonna stay on, you have to go sit down because your funk is, I can't drive the bus. And so he's like, fuck you, I'm staying here. So then these three guys get up and physically try to push him out the door of the bus because he was being so disrespectful to the driver. And he's hanging onto the door like a cat that won't go in the cat carrier when you're trying to take them to the vet. But they finally push the guy out the door, and he's like, fuck this Donald Trump shit. I don't know what that means. You fucking white bitch. And the driver turns to him and says, sir, clearly I'm Mexican. But if I didn't take the bus, those are the kind of great stories that I'd miss. And I'd be disappointed. But I think my love of public transportation really comes from having spent 20 years living in New York City. And I was back in New York City recently, and I did a show and had a few drinks, if I'm being honest. I was pretty drunk, but somehow I made it down all the steps. I don't know how. And, and you know the great thing about being really drunk and having a disability? No one knows. No one knows. They're just like, oh, look, he's trying. So inspirational. But I made it down all the steps, and I got into the subway, and that kind of magical thing happened where the doors opened, and I got on, and it was just packed with people. And people do that really weird thing when they don't want to get up and give up their seat. They just look at the floor. And so I walked to the middle of the car and I grab onto the pole. And I got pretty good 20 years in New York subway surfing, as they call it. And we pull up to the next stop, and this really pregnant woman gets on the train. And everybody does that same thing again where they look down at the floor and nobody wants to get up. And it's almost like I'm hovering above the situation, and I can see what's happening, and the pregnant woman sort of comes and grabs the same pole that I'm hanging onto. And then I look around just to the people sitting around us, and I say, really? Really? Like no one's getting up, not even for this pregnant woman? And she looks at me and she goes, I'm not pregnant, you fucking jerk. See? And I was like, well, you look radiant. And then we had to stand hanging onto the same pole, staring into each other's eyes for 10 more stops. But I just can't give up those stories. I love them so much. Just like the other day when I was going down Santa Monica Boulevard, the number 4 bus, I'm a big-time number 4 bus rider, because it goes all the way from the beach all the way downtown. And even if it's just going a really short distance, I love to get on because I'm disabled and I'm so fucking tired. And so I love to get on the bus and even ride short distances. And the other day when I was on there, this guy got on and he said, how come every city bus I get on in West Hollywood is full of fags, trannies, drunks, cripples, and homeless people? And he looked right at me when he said it, you guys. Right at me. And I was pretty offended because I'm at least 3 of those things. Whatever, dude. But I do enjoy connecting with people. I think that's what's hard in LA. Everyone's so isolated in their cars. Like this kid and his mom were on the bus, and the kid said to me, Mister, can I ask you something? And I said, sure. And he goes, what happened to you? And his mom goes, oh my God, Jimmy, we don't ask those kind of questions to strangers. And I go, no, it's okay. Kids are curious. And I said, well, sometimes late at night, I wonder if somehow I've reached my peak, and this is as good as it's ever going to get. And sometimes I drink too much or I get too high to forget about how alone I actually am. That's what happened to me. And he looked at me and he said, "Does it hurt?" And I said, yeah, it hurts a lot. But I will leave you with this. The other day when I was on the bus, this was so great. We were riding along, and this guy was on the phone having one of those really important LA phone calls. And he says, yeah, don't worry about it. I'm just walking off the lot at CBS. And then he turned to everyone in the bus and went, and because we are so fame obsessed in this town, a hush fell over the entire bus. Like people were explaining it on the way back. No, he's in a meeting at CBS. And we rode in silence for the remainder of the guy's phone call. Which just goes to show, I guess I'm going to be okay, because despite what my friend says, you can keep up appearances on the bus in LA. Thank you.
Transportation since 2009. This shift has been great for me. I walk more, I connect more to the world around me. I actually get to read while I'm on the bus. I write while I'm on the bus. I actually have written enough to create a whole play about my travels on the big blue bus. Last year, my daughter moved back to Chicago, and she transferred the title of her car to me. Now, this shift was also good. Suddenly, I had a little more time. If I wanted to get across town, I could do that in areas where the public transportation is less reliable. My social life became more flexible. When I wanted to go across town to see my boyfriend, when she's got to have it, I was able to do that. And if I wanted an extra 20 minutes before my morning routine got me going to work, I had that luxury. I was happy for the time. And then there was something else I noticed. As I went rolling along in my temperature-controlled personal pod, my relationship with the rest of the world shifted. I was a major hater. So bigoted, biased, and judgmental. I was jumping to conclusions about everybody else on the road based on gender, cultural identity, age. You may as well slap a Trump bumper sticker on my car and let's drive to Mississippi, because I hate everybody. Although I have to say, though, there is one group that really gets my goat. And this includes every kind of people. People that drive BMWs. Those people are assholes. Greedy, aggressive, entitled assholes. So there are those folks that do what I decide is kind of a lame driving move, like racing past me 2 car lengths to the red light. Or those people that there's room enough in the parking space for 2 cars, if they would just move a foot forward, and they don't, well, I make a point of driving up alongside of those people, and I let them know how I feel, because it is all over my face. This is my driving face. Oh, and I know, it's not pretty. Once I was trying to change lanes in front of a junky ancient truck full of lumber and lawnmowers, probably Mexicans, and I was driving up alongside to give them the face, and I caught my face in the rearview mirror, and I was startled. And I said, "Who is that sour-faced old lady driving my car?" Why is my experience so different when I'm on public transportation? Public transportation, I am inspired to write poetry. Why is it so different? And I do have a theory. I think my small, mean side has a field day when I'm driving my car, for the same reason I pick my nose while I'm driving. I think that I am alone. Separated by metal, glass, and a full tank of gas, car is kingdom and it's good to be the queen. As I'm driving along, everyone else is simply what's keeping me from getting to where I need to go. In the car, I have the luxury of a single perspective, my own. And like a real tyrant, like an evil queen, if something gets in my way, off with their head. Public transportation is inclusive by design. If you pay the fare, it's going to get you there, no matter who you are. I mean, we're all in the same boat, right? I mean, we're still separated by class, by gender, by cultural identity. However, on the bus, there's a little bit more time. And if you're open to it, you start to see the nuances of humanity. You start to see that statistic that says we are 99% more alike as far as DNA goes, no matter who we are. So you're sitting on the bus, and people, most people, smile when a little kid gets on with a backpack. I still see younger people letting older people sit down. I still listen, like we all do, to the bus driver bantering with tourists. And I know it's not always a joyride. You see things you don't want to see. You overhear conversations that make you wince. You smell smells that you didn't know were possible. But still, we're all in it together. And the difference in the quality of time is the luxury of time to consciously release bias. And then suddenly you have the time to write poetry. You have the time to read a good book. You have the time to create stories to tell. So now when I'm driving and I'm inspired to judge somebody, I actually give them a story. So you know that person that races 2 car lengths to get to the red light? In my mind, I'm thinking, you know what, they probably thought they could catch that light. And their manager told them the next time they were late for work, they were fired. Or that person that parked with not enough space for 2 cars, they probably parked their car in the morning when the garbage cans were there. And once they were taken away, they were already at work. So doing this has made me a more compassionate driver. So if you drive everywhere, take public transportation once in a while. Get on the bus, get on the train. It might make you a more compassionate driver. Because nobody wants to be an asshole on the road, unless they're driving BMWs. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. This story takes place on the bus that rides past this theater every 20 minutes. The number 4 bus, that's my A1 fishing haul. It's an insane asylum on wheels. You get stories on that bus whether you want them or not, every time you ride. This story took place on a ride 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago. I was on the number 4 riding from downtown LA. At the last bookstore, I was on my way to the Echoplex in Echo Park. I had my first show where I was opening in a full band slot before a band at the Echoplex, which was my goal when I got out here, to do stories with bands. And I was really excited because the Echoplex is this huge indie rock club where I've seen all my favorite bands. It's a legendary club. It's where the Rolling Stones had their first show before they went on tour. It's where 9 Inch Nails had their last ever show before their last farewell tour that they did afterwards. It's just a great club. I wanted to have a clear mind and make sure I was ready to just deliver the best set possible, because I was going to do 20 minutes. So I hop on the number 4 bus, and I know that it's going to be distracting, but I try to be centered. But there's this one guy who's talking to the bus driver, and he's so distracting that I can't stop looking at him. I'm sitting in the first pair of seats opposite the driver after the handicapped and adult seats that are on the left and right-hand sides of the bus. And this guy's sitting in front of me, and he's talking to the driver, and he's got this weird look. He has this green, dirty, kind of wrinkled suit with like dirt stains on it, and he has a red tie, and a red shirt and a Hawaiian tie with a pineapple on it. And he has this comb-over, jet black shoe polish haircut that's kind of combed over like this. And he has a mustache that's got 2 symmetrical rectangles that are also dyed the same shoe polish color. And he's talking with this pattern where he's kind of clapping his hands and marching his feet like this. And his gig is that he stands on the sidewalk in Bunker Hill, and he asks lawyers and bankers for money. But he explains that he's the best at it of all the people asking for money on Bunker Hill, because he wears a suit, and he approaches the bankers and the lawyers as if he's one of them. And he said, and I only ask for $100 bills. $100 bills, $50 bills, or $20 bills. I don't ask for singles, let the other guys grovel in the gutter for the change. I ask for the big bills, and that's why I make the big dollars, because I act like I'm one of them. And then whenever we come to a stop, he would just politely go, "Excuse me," and he'd just kind of step back and let everybody board and kind of do his clapping thing. And then as soon as the bus would take off, he'd go, "So as I was saying," and the bus driver would just kind of be nodding in the rear view. And like, I've kind of forgotten about my set now, because he's kind of flashy. He's got like a silvery jingle bracelet, and the story makes sense, because I understand that ask high, take it down theory, and I'm unemployed, so it's hard to make money in this town, so I'm always open for new ideas. And so I'm kind of keeping an ear open, but I'm also trying to think of the show. So he explains that he makes way more money than all the other guys on Bunker Hill because of this approach that he uses, and he's trying to get the other guys to do it too, just out of professional pride. But the other guys have no interest in it. So he decided that he would challenge the other guys to a bet to prove his point. He explained to the driver that he said, I reached in my pocket and I had $44 because it was only noon, and that was after breakfast and cigarettes and coffee. And the other guys combined had $4. So I told them I would challenge them to a bet. I would take $20 versus their collective $4, that I could stop any person walking down this street, the next person, and have him walk to the end of the block and back using my approach of asking 150, 20, and by the time he walks to the end and back, he'll have earned $25. And if he does, I will take your $4. If he doesn't, then I will give you this $20. And of course, they took the bet, because that's a great deal. And now, by this point, we're at Echo Park Boulevard, and we're waiting. He's like, "Excuse me," and I want to hear the end of the story, but my stop is the next stop, and I have no idea if this guy's ever going to end his story, because this is the number 4 bus. I don't even know if there is an ending to this story. He might just be making it up to pass time to get to the beach, but I want to know, because I don't make money. I sleep on a deflated air mattress in a dining room, so I'm always up for options. And I have a suit jacket and pants that kind of match it. So I could go out there and do it. But I gotta know, I got one more stop, and then it's going to Silver Lake, and I'm missing my show. So I'm hoping he'll get to the point. And he says, I was in luck. The first guy who walked by, I was hoping he would be a young lawyer, and he was. I wanted a young lawyer because I wanted a hungry guy, and lawyers will do anything for money. So I explained to him, look, you walk to the end of the block and back, and if you get $25, then I win this bet. I'm trying to teach these other people to use this proper approach out of professional pride. But I tell you what I'll do. Regardless of whether you make $25 or not, I will give you this $20 bill just to prove my point. So all you got to do is walk down and back using my approach, asking for hundreds, 50s, and 20s. And you'll get this $20, but if you make the $25, you keep that too, I'll still give you the 20. And the attorney says, wow, you'll give me $20 just to walk down and back? I'll do anything for money. I'm an attorney. So the bet was on. But at this point, we're leaving Echo Park, so I have to get off the bus. And I don't find out how the story ends. And I'm so bummed out. Because it's not like this guy's going to show up at Busted. And it's not like he's going to show up at a Moth or something. So I'm never going to find out how this story ends. And I want to know if it works. I'm ready to wake up the next morning and go to Bunker Hill and find this guy. Because, if it makes money, I want to do it. And because there's no money in storytelling. So the show ends. It's a good show. I have a good time. But I can't get this guy out of my head with this, clapping and the suit and the tie and this 150-20 theory. And I want to know if the bet worked or how we ended the story. So I get on the bus to go home. It's about 1 in the morning. Turns out it's the same bus driver. So I'm like, awesome! Now I'm going to know how the story worked out. And so I say, excuse me. I was on this very same bus about 8 o'clock. I got on about 7:30 at downtown LA to Echo Park, and you were talking to this man who was wearing a green suit with a red shirt and a Hawaiian tie with a pineapple, and he had shoe polish, dark comb-over hair, and symmetrical mustache that was also dark shoe polish, and he had a silver bracelet, and he'd kind of go like this while he was talking, and he was explaining how he's the best panhandler in Bunker Hill because he asks for hundreds, 50s, and 20s and acts like a lawyer, and he bet all the panhandlers that he could stop anybody, and he stopped a lawyer to go down and back, and he'd make $25, and if he did that, he'd win the bet, and I had to get off the bus. I need to know how that story ended. You know this guy I'm talking about, right? And the bus driver pauses, and he looks at me, and he says, oh, I'm sorry, boss. I'd like to help you, but you gotta be more specific than that. Bus drivers have way more patience than I do. Always thank your bus driver. Thank you. Let's cheer for your featured storytellers today. Brandon Burkhart, Katya Duft, Horus RA, Walloch, Tanya White. My name's Scott Schultz. Thank you guys so much for coming to Busted. Check out our website, bustedlosangeles.com. For those of you riding the bus or taking a bicycle home today, thank your driver. Ride safely. For all of you guys driving, please respect the crosswalks. Thank you.